Here it is, Monday, December 1st. Goodness gracious, Christmas is going to be here before we can get our shopping done. I don't do shopping every year. I gave it up a few years ago. I just felt like there's so much commercialism in Christmas, I don't want to be a part of it. I like the get-togethers. I like the pretty decorations. I like that warm feeling I used to have when I was a kid. Couldn't wait, just couldn't wait till Christmas because everybody was going to be home. They were all going to come home for Christmas. And gosh, we were going to have so much fun. Mama was going to be fixing the Christmas dinner, which she always did. But one thing she didn't do was prepare a turkey. She didn't like turkeys. She wouldn't put a turkey on her table. But she had the best stewing hen you ever ate. And that stewing hen made the best dumplings. No, nobody could cook like Mama. Anybody that ever eaten at her table would tell you the same thing. We all got to brag about our mamas. Been a long, long time, and I don't want to talk about it because if I do, I'll cry, and you know that. I don't have anything set to discuss tonight. I'm sitting here in the dark with a little light trying to keep the glare off of my glasses. My glasses really showing up tonight. I kind of like these. Well, you know, I bought a new pair recently. They're the kind of the animal print. They look a little bit like these, only they're brownish, and I don't like them. They don't look good on me. Just don't think I'm going to be wearing those glasses. These are what they call the cat-eye glasses, which I have for the last 4 years referred to as my trademark. I'm not sure I like my trademark anymore. I may have to change it to something new. In fact, I got to thinking about some things I'd hid up in the closet. Didn't know which closet, but didn't take long to find because I only have 2 closets. And I thought, why not my coffee mug? Look at here, see? Chit Chat with Granny Pat. Now you've seen this before, comes in various colors. It's a very, very nice coffee mug, nice and deep and thick. And if you drink coffee, of course I don't drink coffee, but I'll drink anything else out of the mug that I want to. But take a look. Don't you think that's sweet? Look at that little face. Do I look like that? I'm not sure, but I like it anyway because my granddaughter Jessica designed this for me. It's mine and mine alone. So if I have this as my trademark, nobody's going to take it away from me. Or I thought about this. And by the way, what I'm showing you makes wonderful Christmas presents. They're reasonably priced, and a lot of people like them. Take a look at my little t-shirt. You're not going to see my face now. I want you to see the t-shirt. Look at there. See? Didn't she do a good job? I love my t-shirt. You can also get this in sweatshirts. And they're really nice quality. So if you're looking for something special that nobody else has, well, I'd like to think a lot of people have it, but most likely they don't. You can order them, and they come pretty quick. But think how nice your friends would be, your family would be, because everybody wears sweatshirts and t-shirts nowadays. And this would be something you could talk about. First thing they're going to say is, what is that? What does that mean? And you can describe Granny Pat's YouTube channel. I can use a few more channel members, somebody who likes to listen to people tell stories, and I've got a lot of stories. I can tell you, I'm folding this back up so it won't be so wrinkled. I've got the sweatshirt. I've got the sweatshirt in pink, great for girls, and you can get them for men too. I'm trying to think how many different items are in my website, and you can order these from Etsy. Chit Chat for Granny Pat on Etsy. So keep that in mind if you're looking for items for Christmas gifts that are different, reasonably priced, and I think they're really just cute as they can be. So having said that, let's see. I was trying to think what I was going to talk about. Oh, I know. Every now and then I have something that just kind of, it's like a thorn in the side. You've heard people say that, it's like a thorn in the side. And it has to do with English grammar. English grammar. Some people have the worst English grammar, and I keep saying, where did they go to school? Did they teach them any English in school? Well, I went to school in the 40s and 50s. And I'm going to tell you this. Small town school. We had the best teachers you could have. Those teachers, if it was a math teacher, the math teacher drilled you until you understood how to work that problem. Now, I only took math classes through geometry. And when I finished the year of geometry, I said, why am I taking these math classes? I'm not going to do anything that requires using math unless it's just to balance my checkbook once I get a checking account. At that time, I didn't have checking. We high school kids didn't have checking accounts then. But I decided to finish after geometry. But I did have good math teachers. Always was good in math. Also, English grammar and spelling. I was a good speller. I had wonderful English grammar teachers. I am appalled at some of the things that come out of people's mouths today, and I think, where did they go to school? Even when my children were in elementary school, they would come home and they would say something, and I'd say, don't you have an English teacher? Aren't they teaching you anything? Well, of course, some people say they should learn it at home. I didn't learn it at home. I learned it in school. That's where it was taught. I didn't depend on my mother to teach me all about English and diagramming sentences and spelling and that sort of thing. My mother only went to the 6th grade, and I'll give her all the credit in the world. She did very well in her adulthood with her spelling, her writing, whatever. It was amazing that she only went to the 6th grade and what she knew. So I've been listening to people talk, and there were two of your news reporters that always bothered me. Tom Brokaw and Dan Rather. There's a word called myself. they were always using that word incorrectly. They did not know how and when to use the word myself. And there are very few situations where myself is correct. I would shudder because they used the word so often and they never used it right. News reporters should know good English grammar, but they didn't. Today, I shudder when I hear somebody with their pronoun, their noun, their pronoun, their verb that we used to call them predicates. They don't know how to use those words. They don't know that you don't use a plural verb with a singular subject. People do it all the time. He don't know how. He don't know how? Well, he ain't ever gonna know how if he keeps speaking in that kind of language. Don't call it mountain language or people Appalachian. That's not what it is, not at all. Don't blame it on the mountain people when you use incorrect English. I have got an English book. I think it's about the 3rd or 4th grade. Somewhere in my stack of books in the closet, I keep thinking I'm going to get that book out. I'm going to do a little reviewing on my English grammar because the people I hear talking and they're saying, he don't know nothing. There are times it's okay to do, you're just using slang sometimes, and you do it on purpose. I do it on purpose too. But I do know proper English. And I'm afraid that our students of today will never learn good English. What is this world going to come to when we don't even have teachers who can teach it? Now, I had a job in Tennessee. I was secretary. Math was involved in my job as well. And one of the social workers, she had a master's degree in English. She would handwrite her letter to whomever. I don't know who she would, it didn't matter who she was writing the letter to, but she would bring it to me and ask me to correct it because I was going to have to type it up anyway. But she wanted me to correct her letter for her master's degree in English. I had a high school diploma, but I was correcting her work. What does that tell you? So, if you've got children in school, keep a close eye on what they're learning. And make note when you recognize they're not being taught. It's not always a matter of what they learn, it's a matter of what they are taught. And if they're taught the wrong thing, they're going to use the wrong thing. They're going to say the wrong thing. They don't know the difference because that's what the teacher told them. I wouldn't want to be a school teacher today. I wouldn't fit in, that's for sure, because I don't agree with her methods at all. I still believe in the 3 R's. And speaking of math, I was with my great-grandchildren. They were little. They were like 4 and 5 years old. And they were with their grandmother. Their grandmother was a nurse at the hospital, well-educated lady. And she kept them on certain days of the week instead of a babysitter. And she taught them, one of the first things she taught them, and I watched, she was teaching them how to tell time. She had one of those little clocks, and she was showing them how to learn to tell time. And I got to thinking, been a long time since I thought about something like that. How do children learn to tell time? Who teaches them? Well, in this case, it was a grandmother that was teaching them. She was teaching, this is what she was teaching. Everybody has a watch now. They've got a watch. Let me see, I'm going to cut that off real quick. Okay, now I'll go on. Children now have watches, partly because it's part of their system for mama keeps up with them with this little watch and what have you. But all your watches nowadays say like 12:45. They can look at the clock, their watch, and it says 12:45. But do they know it also means 1:45? Are children being taught how to tell time that way? Will they learn that it might be 25 to 1 or 1:35? That's what they're being taught. And I really hadn't thought about it until I watched her with these grandchildren, showing them there were 2 ways to tell time. And she wanted them to learn both of them. She was doing a good job. Have you thought about that? Because children have watches now. They don't wait till they're in high school and get one for Christmas. They're wearing them before they start in school so that they can tell what time they have to be home when they go to play with their friends. They're wearing a watch. So I'm just giving you my little school lesson for the day. I was senior in high school now. That English teacher she'd been there, it seemed like 112 years. Because I know my oldest sisters had her. My children would have had her. I don't know how many years that woman taught in the high school, but she knew her English. She knew her literature. She loved the literature. I wasn't crazy about literature. I didn't like to read. I didn't want to read. Give me something I can work and put together and play with and make. I'm happy. But don't tell me I have to sit down and read a book to give a book report, which I didn't do. In fact, I didn't read in high school, but I had to give book reports. So I had a close friend. She read all the time. And I'd say, Barbara, I've got to give a book report. What am I going to do? She said, well, I just finished reading, War and Peace, about 500 pages. I said, well, tell me the story. She'd rattle off a little bit of the story. And she said, now you go to the library, you get the title of the book, you get the name of the author, and you get the main characters' names in the book, and then you tell them what I just told you. And that's exactly how I gave my book reports in high school. I went by the stories she told me. Never did read any books. No. You know how that affects you with your vocabulary. I don't have a good vocabulary, but I've got sense enough to know how to look things up and figure out if I'm using the right words. I can do that, and anybody can do that nowadays. They've made it easier and easier. When I was a senior, what subjects you going to take by the time you're a senior? I'd already had shorthand the first year, and then they didn't teach the second year, so I never did really learn how to take shorthand. Had typing class. You had English from 1st to the 12th grade. So you have to have an elective. All right, I chose public speaking and journalism. And journalism because I was on the committee for the school newspaper. You know, the gossip column was the main part of the school newspaper. I wrote an article once, kind of copied it out of 17 magazine, you might say. I got the main details, and I wrote my own little article. It was an article about the newest styles. And heaven forbid, when the English teacher came to me and told me that my article had been submitted to the regional newspaper. They had regional newspapers where they would pick a story or something from every school newspaper and publish it in a regional newspaper, and my article got published in the regional newspaper. What I know about writing. So I signed up for public speaking. That was a dandy. The junior high school principal taught public speaking. I was scared to death of him. He could make you think he was going to sling you through the window, upstairs window, down to the ground if you looked at him the wrong way. I was afraid of him. But the main thing was, if you wanted to get on the good side of that man, laugh at everything he said, because he thought he was funny. He would tell these little stories. Now, one of my friends, she caught on quick. And she had one of those big mouths that when she smiled all over her face, and you couldn't help but notice. So, when he would tell something, she would laugh so hard and so loud. Well, what do you think that brought on? She was teacher's pet. Naturally, she became teacher's pet. Well, I guess I got through probably about the first half of the year, and I learned how to laugh, a fake laugh. You know, you've heard people with their fake laughs. I just hate people who use fake laughs. There's one on YouTube that does that all the time and drives me up the wall. I think there ain't nothing funny about it. You just got that fake laugh and you try and fool people into thinking something's funny. Anyway, I learned how to do the fake laugh. I got pretty good at it. Well, you know what happened? Creating a speech once a week in a small town school what do you think we had to write about? I didn't have anything to write about. We didn't do anything exciting at our house. I didn't belong to any clubs or anything. I didn't ride bicycles all over town. I couldn't report on high school sports. Couldn't done that. But I had to create. I had to make a speech. You always had to make a speech. It was hard because my life was pretty dull. But I remember I wrote this one speech and I thought, I'm not even going to pass this class. And I gave my speech and I got an A+. But I also learned to laugh at the principal's jokes. That put me right at the top of the list of his favorite pupils. Live and learn. It does work. And I don't know why I remember that, but it also got me the position of assistant director of the senior play. I didn't get to be in the play because he said my voice wouldn't carry. My voice was too soft, that in the back of the auditorium, the people could not hear me when I spoke. Well, of course I was disappointed, but it's just as well. I probably couldn't have memorized the lines anyway. So I got to be assistant director, and I got to tell everybody where to stand, what to do, when to close the window, and when it was their time to speak. So I'm just giving you a little history lesson. I can't think of anything significant to tell about my school background. I graduated from high school. That's about as far as I got. But it puzzles me today when I can listen to people on television, on radio, or even on YouTube. And their English grammar is horrendous. They don't know their own English grammar. And I'm saying, who's teaching it today? The teachers today, they haven't learned it yet. So how are our grandchildren going to be able to speak fluently, good English? I'm a little concerned about the education system. And I know a few of you will agree with me. The others won't know the difference. Because some of you never got taught good English either. But I did. I was taught good English. I try to use good English. There are many times I used slang, but that's in a relaxed atmosphere where you're comfortable and you feel you're at ease, and you just say things in a little sloppy manner. I do it. I hear a lot of people who do it, but I know they know better, and I know better. There's a difference. There's a difference in doing it and knowing you're doing it, and then doing it and not knowing you're wrong. So I don't know that this is going to mean anything to you. Probably not. But I get it on my mind now and then about what we're teaching our children today. And I want them to be smart. I want them to sound smart. But it's not happening. It's not happening. I've been in situations in my work where I knew I needed to put my best foot forward. And thank goodness for my good English teachers in high school. I was able to speak when it was needed to be correct. And you can go through everything I've said this evening and tell me when I was wrong, when I said the wrong word, whether or not it was plural or singular or not pronounced right. Now there's one word. There are a few words that bother me. One of them is, that was such an interesting story. How would you have said that? That was an interesting story? No. It was very interesting. There's another word that bothers me. R-E-A-L-T-O-R. Realtor. It's not realtor. There is not an extra A between those syllables. Realtor. You've hired a realtor, not a realtor. Those are two of my words. There are one or two others, but I've forgotten what they are right now. Keep that in mind if you think you are pronouncing the words wrong. So, I know you're going to appreciate my English lesson tonight, and I enjoy giving it to you. Maybe you have learned something. Every now and then someone teaches me a good lesson. And I'll say, I never knew that. Never knew it. But I am so pleased when someone corrects me. Because to me, it's embarrassing to me if I say it wrong and don't know it. So I'm trying to think, how many minutes have I been on here now? Because I know some of you don't like my long speeches. And others say, I like your long stories best. So I'm pleasing half of you, half the time. And I'm getting thirsty. I just had my supper, and do you know, I finished off the Thanksgiving meals, and it was just as good the third time I ate it as it was the first time. Now we got to start working on what we're going to have for Christmas dinner. Probably the same thing we had for Thanksgiving dinner. I hope you have good plans for Christmas. I love to go shopping, but I don't shop anymore. I just don't like the commercializing of Christmas anymore. There is nothing you can buy someone that they don't already have. Now, I'll tell you what I want for Christmas. I want a good haircut. My hair is getting long. It needs to be fixed. And I want it done before Christmas. So if you're good hairstylist, come on by, but bring your own scissors. Because my scissors aren't good for cutting hair. And I'll pay you. Yeah, I'll pay you good. I'll fix you some grilled cheese sandwich. I make good grilled cheese sandwiches. And we could just sit down at my dining room table, push all the junk off to one side, and have a really good lunch. Let me know when you're coming. Thank you for listening to my chit-chat. And that's just exactly what it was tonight. Chit-chat with Granny Pat. Thank you for watching me. I'll see you in a day or two.